day and welcome to the Pathway to Professional Bermuda Series number 2. I'm your host, Earl Based, and joining me is none other than Peter Ricards. Peter, in our last chat, we had a young man and his father giving us, just a brief of what they both go through to make it try to work. Malachi, right?
Yeah, Malachi, yeah.
To try and make it work for young man Malachi. To fulfill his dream, and it's not only a commitment of Malachi, but it's a family commitment and life changer as well. But in today's chat, I think what you and I is going to talk a little more about just those sacrifices that one must make, and you will speak to it where you and your family made a sacrifice to change for not just for football, but for other things, education wise, and then you find yourself in this predicament. So let's talk a little bit about your journey and where you are today, because I mean you revealed some big news the last time we were on, and so where are we with the youth programs that you're involved in currently?
Yeah, sure. Thanks again for having me involved. Great to be back. For me, I left the island 4 years ago, and I think we touched on this last time. It wasn't so much for football as opposed to my son's education. He wanted to do automotive engineering, and he kind of fell in love with the school that, I guess you could say, unfortunately for us, wasn't a boarding school. So we made the decision to leave the island to come out here to support him to pursue his dreams. At 14 years old, those options were not available to him on the island. Now he's 18, he'll be 19 next month, and he's a fully qualified auto mechanic. He's actually working at a garage now and doing what he absolutely loves to do. So these are the sacrifices that you make for your family. Now, football wise, I was involved with several different programs over the years on the island. Most of my football certification education took place in the US. It was easier to get there, and you were able to do what equates to a UEFA B license actually within a week, as opposed to 2 6 months blocks that we would do back home on the island. So I got that under my belt, came out here, and then started to, because that's my passion, once I reached here, started to pursue opportunities. And now I'm actually on to my third professional club. You bounce around a bit like that, different opportunities that present themselves. So here I am.
Now we talk about life-changing and the pathway that people take. Everybody's path is different because everybody's life is different. In the end, yes, we all see the professional, but what we don't see is the ones who don't make it professional because they go on to do other things, and we tend not to even know who they are. But the pathway to professional, the Bermuda side, I think what's important, and we can't stress it enough, is making sure that parents totally understand that it's not, I'm just going to drop my child off in a babysitting service and I'm going to go back to Bermuda and try to make as much money as I can to keep funding that. Because a lot of people in their mind would honestly think, if I throw enough money at it, it's going to work. That's not always the case, is it?
No, definitely not. I know that a lot of parents now are pursuing the pathway to professional football through education. And that's great because a lot of the schools here are actually run as a professional football academy would be run. But I think what you have to understand is that, you're coming from Bermuda, you might be a great player in Bermuda and so be it, but you're coming over here and you're competing against literally thousands of young men, young ladies from all over the world, from the different African nations, from the different Eastern European nations. You're even getting a lot of Spanish players coming over here now because they want to mix the physicality that you'll get in the English football with the technical side that the Spanish are developing. So you get so many top level players coming over here looking for the same opportunity.
Yeah. And the thing is that's the player side for the parent. How important is it that your young person understands what their commitment is, and the parent understands what their commitment is, because it's a catch 22. It's twofold. It can't be just, well, if that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. It's not always like that. I mean, we get our kids to a certain age and they go to college, yes, and we send them off to college. However, we're talking much younger, underdeveloped young people who have this aspiration of being a professional, and we want to send them as early as possible, but they haven't had that training, the growing up training, and it's all learned on the fly. But just how much do they have to understand? They have to make sure that the young person, boy or girl, understands what is required of them when they arrive on their own, basically, because once they've accepted them, they're on their own.
Yeah, pretty much. I think, touching on the parental issue, if it's your dream for your child and your child wants to pursue that dream of becoming a professional athlete, a professional footballer, if you are able to, I think it's going to be best for you to be in the environment to support that child. Excuse me. We spoke on it last time. You have to get in this environment as early as possible. Now, let's speak about the football academy environment. They start to take these young, let's just focus on the males for now. They start to take these young men into these professional academies at 8 and 9 years old. So every year you're assessed 3 to 4 times a year on your progression. Are you progressing physically? Are you growing? Are you understanding the game? Are you understanding your role within the team? Are you getting faster? Are you getting bigger? Are you getting stronger? Are you developing your technical skills? So 3 to 4 times per year, per football year, you're going to be brought in and assessed by the staff. If they think that you're showing progression, they'll keep you on. They'll sign you on for another year. If they don't think that you're going to be on a pathway to where they think you should be, they're going to release you. And that's the harsh reality. That happens to 8, 9, 10-year-olds out here. So another thing the parent has to understand is that you have to live within a 1-hour driving time of the academy. So you can't live in London and think you're going to play for Manchester City. You're just not going to be able to drive there in an hour. It's too far away. It takes too long. Traffic, weather conditions. When I was with MK Dons, that's only 25 miles away. That used to take me sometimes 45 minutes to drive 25 miles at 60, 70 miles an hour. Some zones are 20 and 30 miles an hour. You have the traffic, you have the weather conditions, you have road conditions. You might be diverted to a longer route. You might have an accident that takes you along a different route. So you have to live from under 12s, you have to live within a 1-hour driving distance to the training facility. From 12 to 16, you have to live an hour and a half to the facility. So like I said, up to 9, 10, 11, 12, you're being assessed. Once you get to that 12 to 16, same thing, you're being assessed every year. Some clubs do it on an 18-month to 2-year basis. Most clubs do it on a 1-year basis. They'll bring you in, they'll sit you down in front of the coaching staff, and they'll talk to you. They'll go over all your stats because they're keeping all this information on you. You know, you see these guys wearing the vest and all the tracking information. They're keeping all that information on you. They're tracking your height. They're tracking your weight. So all these things are kept a track of. And if you're not on that pathway, if you're not on that path to where they think you should be, they're gonna let you loose. When you get to be 16 years old, they take you on what they call scholarship terms. So scholarship terms is you pretty much do your schooling during the day, or whenever your schooling finishes, you're straight into the club to train. You're training more often a week, and you're usually playing against different professional academies. So scholarship terms take you from your 16 to your 18. If they want to keep you on after 18, that's when you become a full-time professional. That's when you sign professional terms. So from 16 to 18, they might give you a little wage, a little living wage for transportation, for meals, etc. But from 18, that's when you become a full-time professional. Now, like you said, tens of thousands of young men are being released from that system. They don't make it. The percentages are very, very low. All that information is available online. I would encourage parents to go look it up and just see how low that percentage is. But there's so many other options should you be released from these professional clubs. Just because you're released from one club doesn't mean you can't get picked up by another. And there's services out here that offer to put you in front of scouts and coaches for them to have a look at you. There's also the route of going over to the US universities. So many showcase events are put on over here for the players that are released from academies to go over and jump into US universities, because the standard here is so high. They want to get you over into the D1 and D1 universities, D1, D2, universities, to make the program stronger. So those options as well. Your parents can recoup some of that money by perhaps getting a scholarship.
Yeah, I know in Bermuda, we've had, especially over in the UK, we've had a couple of setups where, excuse me, a Bermuda family would house other young people, just to make sure they had somewhere to stay, close enough to a grounds where they can get around. How do you see that working, in an environment? And I know for some it has worked really, really well. But for others who, because you have some people who have grown up all alone, and that's the way that they've managed their life. But now you're in an environment, a housing environment that, it's could be 8 or 9 of you, 10 of you. How do you have to make sure that your young person understands this new environment and make sure that they physically and mentally more than physically, are prepared for this new challenge?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be really difficult because, like you said, you're leaving home, you're leaving your comfort zone. You may have to do things that you're not really used to, sharing a house with several different players. The challenge then becomes, how do you get to training? Who takes you to training? And when the actual matches start, who gets you to the away match? We've run into that situation now with a player that we helped get into a club, and he's actually living with his uncle who lives here. But we talked about it before. The away matches can be up to 2 hours away driving time. And even though the uncle's lived here for just about as much time as me, he's not comfortable with that sometimes.
Right.
And the player's pretty much brand new to the club, so he's still making friends. A lot of even the English parents here are reluctant to take on the responsibility of taking somebody else's child to an away match because of the safety factors, because of the guardianship factors. Anything can happen on the road. Anything can happen during the match. So you say, it's not like back home. Oh, the game's in town today. Can I get a lift? Not here. The parents are very, very reluctant to take on that responsibility because of the risk factors, and just so many things can happen. So if you are living in an environment with half a dozen other players, those type of things come into factor. How do you get to that away match? How do you get to training? Training can be 3, 4, 5 times a week. You can have as many as 2 matches a week. How do you get to those events? How do you balance your schoolwork and your football in a house full of people? That might be something that you're not used to. You might not have your own space, your own quiet space to study and kind of just clear your mind and think about, your next training session or what lesson you might have at school tomorrow. So those are the kind of challenges you have to think about as well.
Definitely. I noted actually yesterday, because you mentioned the U.S., the first ever major arena soccer league had their college draft last night. The first 3 were picked last night, and I believe the other 3 will be done today. But it's another opportunity. It offers you another way into starting a professional. It's another way to stay involved in a sport. But getting back to especially the UK, there's that challenge, and we know we have very skillful, intelligent young men and women playing the sport at a certain age. It's when they come up against that other kid who may not be as skillful, may not be as talented, but has the work rate and the understanding of whenever the coach says A, I'm doing A. How do we manage that before our kids get into that environment to ensure that when the coach says A, that's what we're going to do A?
That's difficult to answer because I don't think you can replicate that environment on the island, with the exception of maybe one or two programs. I don't think you can really replicate that environment. Not because the coaches don't know what they're doing. Some of the coaches I know personally, they provide an excellent environment as far as technical development and intensity within the training sessions. So it's not necessarily the coaches. It's the opponents you might come up against on a game day in Bermuda. It's the other players within the program. Are they really pushing you to become that next level? Because when, as good as you are back home, and like you said, we do have some really good, technically strong, talented players back home. When you get here, everybody is on your level, if not better. And everybody usually is bigger and stronger than us because we're an average size people. So, we do definitely have to develop the skill level, the technical skill level, so that it's superior to what you're going to come up against here. Look at the World Cup final with Argentina and France. The Argentinian players physically were on par with what you might find in Bermuda. A 5'10", a 6-foot Argentinian, a 6'1" Argentinian is considered tall.
Yes.
The tallest player on the Argentina team was the goalkeeper, obviously, which is usually the case. The French players, many of them were 6 foot plus. So how did the Argentinians dominate? They kept the ball on the ground. They played 1 and 2 touch passes, lots of movement without the ball. Yes, there was the excuse conspiracy that a virus had gone through the French team during the week, and they did look sluggish in the first half. But I mean, what a final. One of the best World Cup finals, I would say, ever, that I've ever seen.
Yeah, everybody was
like
treated.
I said, the Argentinians physically, they're an average size people, just like us. So should we be modeling our game on a South American style? Definitely. Yeah. Because of the physical similarities between us. When you come over here to Europe, when you come over here to the UK, like I said, so many other different nationalities, whether you're in a club or whether you're in one of these schools that have that high-level football academy contained within the school. You're coming up against the players from the African nations. I took a young man to the school to his very first training session. I was speaking with his dad, and one of the players, I could be wrong, but I think he was from Kenya, easily 6 feet tall, and these were under 12s. I had some players in my MK Dons team, eye to eye with me. I'm 5'10", eye to eye with me. Again, U12. They're growing big out here. I don't know. We need to find a style of football that suits us physically, and then master that as far as our fitness level and our technical development and our speed of play, and bring it out here and let it be an advantage to us, so that we don't struggle so much.
Yeah,
because we do struggle with the speed of the game when we get here, and the physicality. So if that physicality, I think, is always going to be an issue for us, like I said, because of our naturally just average size. So we have to be able to get out of that situation. Look at David Silva that played for Manchester City all those years. Most physical league in the world, the Premier League. David Silva was what, 5'8", 5'9"?
Yeah.
He wasn't there for you to hit.
Yeah.
He laid the ball off.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. Look at Messi, 5'7". Yeah. Don't be there for the player to slam into you. Let the ball go.
Yeah. So let me ask, because whenever we have school breaks, we always have football camps on the island. What do the academies do when schools are out? Do they increase the number of training sessions, or do they keep it very much the same?
It's very much the same as you'd find on just a regular weekly schedule, because they do train as many matches over the course of a school break. but they'll still definitely train just as much, if not more, maybe twice a day,
Oh,
because they'll kind of fill in that gap, whereas they won't necessarily have 2 matches a week. So they might have 2-a-day training sessions because they know the players are not in school. And then even the schools, the players that choose not to go home for the school breaks, a lot of the schools offer football camps on site. So you can remain at the school and you'll train just the same as you would during the regular school year.
So the clubs that you're at now, how are things shaping up for you?
I've actually been on the sidelines for the past 3 weeks, as you know, very much under the weather.
Right.
But things are shaping up really, really well. The level of players, the connections that I'm able to make in the game, the people that I'm able to bounce ideas off of. And I say all the time, player-wise, what I experienced back home, there's not a lot of difference as far as skill. It's
Right.
more attitude, I would say. And by that, I mean, you spoke to it earlier. What the coach says goes. They do show you a lot of respect. They do come to training ready to train. They don't take 15, 20 minutes to put the boots on and talk to the mates. It's out of the car. They already have the kit on and it's straight on to the pitch. Can I get a ball? Can I start to warm up? Yeah, please do. So I think it's the focus and the intensity that they bring to a training session. But having said that, they do have I guess you would say, the advantage of knowing that there are so many options for them and there's so much competition. If you're not with it, you're going to get replaced. Simple as that.
Yeah. And I guess that also is through parenting as well, because they'll be saying, hey, the minute we get there, you got to get on the field because, so and so is already there. If the coach is there, you got to be ready. So that part is getting done at home, where when we send our kids alone, that part's not necessarily getting done. They have to figure that out on their own. And, the constant reminder of someone that's there, I think, is a benefit to anybody. And I'm pretty sure anybody that's going through it or has been through it will probably agree.
Yeah, I mean, we did speak earlier and in our last episode about getting the child into this environment as early as possible, which I stand by. But is the child going to be mentally strong enough to come out here alone? I think there are definitely advantages to having a parent or a family member here with you to support you. As a 9, 10, 11-year-old young man, it has to be very, very difficult to be thrown into this environment, to be thrown into this weather, a school 3,000 miles away from your parents and your friends. But how badly do you want it?
Yeah.
This is it. This is where it is. This is where you have to be if you truly want to go for it.
Sure. So let me ask you, Peter, throughout this journey for yourself, what have you learned more about yourself as a lover of football? What have you learned more about yourself?
Wow, good question. Several things. I never had the attitude that I knew it all. Speaking with people back home like Jacques Cavassier that used to come to the island and put on the coaching courses, he said, never stop learning. And I do understand that the game's always changing. But I've met coaches that are, I'm 52 years old. So I've met guys that are 25, 26, already have their B license and pushing towards their A license. The things that you can learn from them are tremendous. One of the gentlemen I worked with at MK had played in the Champions League for I know I'm not going to pronounce this right, but Pathikonikos from Greece.
Oh yeah, that's Greece.
So he had played Champions League football for that Greek team. So he's still fairly young. It's only early 30s. So he's pushing on now towards his A license, and he just spent 5 weeks with a FIFA group that analyzed every single game of the World Cup. So we're still in touch. So to be able to speak with him about his experiences were tremendous. But he showed me a tremendous amount of respect because he knew my futsal background. So he used to enjoy, well, he told me anyway, that he used to enjoy watching my sessions because I would do a lot of small-sided games, a lot of rondo work, encouraging lots of 1 and 2 touches and movement off the ball. And he said the speed and intensity, he really enjoyed that. I think also is the willingness of other coaches, other programs to speak with you and support you along your journey. You know, even when we go to away matches and you introduce yourself to the other coach, or the other coach will come and speak to you, you find yourself a lot of times having conversations about, you know, the first thing they want to know is where I'm from because of different accent. So you start to talk about your journey in football, where you've been, where you think you want to go. And, you know, the first thing they want to do is exchange phone numbers, keep in touch, offer advice. And I'm not saying that you don't find that back home, but I find that guys that do come back to the island with some overseas experience, they're in some instances reluctant to share it for whatever reason. Whereas I find here, guys are much more willing to help you along the way, to share the information, to offer advice. So I think those two things really stick out in my mind. But like I said, player-wise, everywhere you look, whether it's a grassroots program, whether it's a professional program, whether it's a kickabout in the park, the players you can see, you know, they're like, wow, everywhere you look. So just be prepared. If you are a parent, if you are a player considering coming out here, just be prepared that everybody's on your level.
Sure. If not better.
If not better.
And always think where you're going, they're going to be better. So I have to be better.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Well, I want to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas. And hopefully you do feel a lot better come the new year. We're going to continue this pathway to professional, just so people get an understanding of what needs to be done. We plan next year to also have more of what we had before, where we had Malachi and his father on talking about their journey so far, and hopefully we can get an update with them on, you know, just how things have been going before the end of the season, because things change. We know football, things change. I mean, you have young people that pick up injuries, they're out for a season. Their focus may change. Their mentality may change. You know, they might pick up an injury where it's only 2 weeks, but in that 2 weeks they found something else to do, and you know, and that's a Bermuda thing. That's a real, like, I can't go training. I'm lay it up. Okay, give me this remote. I'm on it. You know, so life changes. So yeah, we're gonna be more involved in bringing other people on, as well as other coaches, just to talk about what they look for when they're scouting, you know, players and the challenges that they face as well. So, Peter, again, season's greetings to you and the family. We'll see you in the new year.
Yes,
There's
sir.
another edition of Pathway to Professional. Yeah.
All the best to you and yours as well. Thank you, Earl. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Take care. You as well.